And Divya, I hope the recording. Yeah.
Okay. A warm welcome to all the participants of this special webinar on insects by Mr. Suhaib Yatoo. Mr. Sandeep Kannan will be giving you a formal introduction of Mr. Yatoo. I would like to take this opportunity to give you all a peek into our organization, Compassionate Living. CL, as we so lovingly refer to it, is a labor of love of a founder and mentor, Padmavati Dwivedi. As Albert Schweitzer, the famous German physician, theologist, and Nobel Prize winner, has famously said, and I quote, "Until he extends the circle of compassion to all living beings, man himself will never find peace," unquote. This is the preamble on which CL stands. Born in the year 2008, Compassionate Living has grown from an one man, or rather a woman army, working tirelessly for the neighborhood trees and animals, to a platform for connecting like-minded people who wish to be part of this extending circle doing exemplary work, especially in the field of environment protection. Now CL is going a step further and is becoming a platform for learning and exchange of ideas on various environmental related topics. Today, our topic is insects, and we will be learning more about them. I would like to ask now Sandeep Kannan to please introduce Shoaib to all our participants.
Hello, everyone. Suhaib Yatoo is a recipient of Sanctuary Nature Foundation Young Naturalist Award 2020, a graduate of the University of Kashmir. He is a taxonomist, photographer, and an avid naturalist, which is what led him to securing the position of Director of Biological Diversity at Wildlife Conservation Funds in Vahi District, Jammu and Kashmir, a position which he held till he was promoted to being the Director of Research in 2020. He has represented the World Wildlife Fund (JNK) in various states and national events. Under it, he launched Plant Systematic, a platform to document the fauna of JNK. He nurtures particular interest towards endemic flora, fungi, microorganisms, and insects. He is a fungus expert at eFlora of India, a large open access online database focusing on biodiversity, and has delivered guest lectures at colleges and at the Chingham National Park. Yusuf is currently heading the project Biodiversity Exploration of Raziabad Forest Range for assessment of fly and spider faunal diversity in collaboration with Forest Department, North Kashmir. He actually started his work with fungi. In the meantime, he kept photographing insects. While doing so, he found an insect larva associated with fungi, but he couldn't get a name for that. He read about it, and many of the databases suggested Keroplatidae, and most of the Keroplatidates that looked like the species he collected emitted light during night. He collected them just out of fascination and kept gazing at these whole night, but they didn't emit any light. He felt disappointed. After 2 years, he collected them again and photographed all their life stages. And the expert that he contacted, that there was no report of the genus from India, and it was unusual that they don't emit light. The character become their characteristic feature along with some others, and it will be described as a new species. Now I would like to hand over to Suhaib. He will continue.
Thank you so much, Kanan, for the nice introduction. I'll be sharing my screen shortly. Let me share it. Just a second. As First of all, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining, and thank you so much, Compassionate Earth, for letting me express myself in front of the diverse audience. Thank you so much. Now, I'll be, first of all, I'll be giving a brief introduction of mine, then we'll be switching to the main topic, which is the insects, their identification, and a bit about their ecology as well. Let me introduce myself. Here is a bit of my introduction, who I am, and I am a naturalist. What actually naturalist means is I spent a lot of time in field collecting creatures and studying their life cycles, photographing them, and trying to express the same and trying to explain the same thing to the audience. That is what I do as a naturalist. And in addition to that, I'm a citizen mycologist. I actually used to be a citizen mycologist, and once, as Kanan already said, that I was fascinated by a much diverse group of organisms called as insects. I was intrigued by a particular fungus gnat growing on the fungus actually. So I tried to photograph their life cycles, tried to collect them just out of fascination, and the fascination became passion, and it became my main subject that I work on. And then I switch it to an order of insects called as Diptera. Diptera means flies. We'll be completing that in the later part of this particular presentation, what Diptera means. Flies I work on, and the fly you can get an idea how and describe that we'll be describing this year on. So, moreover, I'm an amateur macro photographer. All the pictures in this very presentation are my own works, and I do actually my macro photographs are the works of art because I work on them with my homemade setup, which is made from the trash actually. A student's microscope, some homemade adapters, some homemade lenses as well. I'll be sharing that in the later part of this presentation as well. In addition to that, I'm an artist as well. I spend most of my free time in painting wildlife and illustrations for kids also. I have added 2 of my illustrations here just to keep it short and crisp. I added only 2 illustrations. This one, this particular one is that of a rat snake commonly found in Kashmir. And this illustration shows clearly the characteristic features of that snake that differentiate it from other snakes like cobras. Here is one more, the blowfly, green blowfly. That is the most commonest species we have here in Kashmir. Now, let's move on to our main topic, that is biodiversity. This picture I took last year while I was on a collection trip to a nearby orchard, which is not a dense forest at all. It is a suburban area. You can get an idea from this picture that this photograph shows a small, that is 1 centimeter large patch, not more than that. And even in this very small patch, you can see a plant species, a fungus growing on it, and further slime molds growing on it. Slime molds are not fungi actually. These belong to some other kingdom, entirely different kingdom actually. And in the foreground is an endemic species to the Himalayas called as, it is a roe beetle, which is endemic to our Himalayas. And you can see maggots and other bristletales and other species as well in this particular photograph. Now imagine if we try to get an idea about the biodiversity, or we multiply times we have the area, we can get an extent of, we can get an idea about the extent of biodiversity we have. So it's really messy, and we have to have something in hand to group them together, to classify them so that we could study them easily. That is where taxonomy comes. And here is one more of my picture I took last year. This picture shows a beautiful fly called as sepsis or ensign flies. Why are they called as ensign flies? Because they keep on waving their wings like that of flag, like that of ensign. That's why they are called as ensign flies. And you can see a small spider hitching a free ride. What they do, since they do not have their own wings, these spiders do not have their own wings, they use other insects as the means of transport without actually paying the fare. If we have a look at this spider, I have zoomed it in. You can see here. You can see here. Is my am I clear? Can somebody confirm with me? I can hear some noises. Yep. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah, perfect.
Carry on.
Okay, that is what shows us how much diversity we have. There's an organism growing on another organism, and that organism further has other organisms. If you zoom into this picture, you'll find different kinds of mites growing on it. So there is diversity within diversity, and there is further diversity in that diversity. So it's really messy, and there is a huge diversity in these really small critters that we would never be able to, a single person can never be able to collect and I would say put it on board, because it is so diverse. We as citizens have to do it ourselves. Unlike the other sciences, which is only done by the experts, we too have to participate actively to get them documented. That is what citizen science is all about. So we must have something in hand. We must have some subject at least to categorize them, to group them into different groups, orders, so that we could easily understand each and every species very conveniently. So we have taxonomy. Unfortunately, it's called as tax on me by some of the academicians because they feel it is one of the most boring subjects, but it is not. Since our approach is very, I would say it is not above the par. We have to think about it. Taxonomy is not tax on me. You have to go yourself into the field, engage all your senses. Only then you can study these creatures in a convenient manner. You can see on my left is a Pederus species, which contains a toxin called as piderin. Although these two species look very similar, but taxonomy differentiates them. One on my left is Pederus that contains piderin, which is highly toxic and can work at the level of your DNA and can stop the working of your DNA. It has that much potential. That is why scientists sometimes call it's more toxic than the venom of cobra, but it's in small quantity. So the left one is toxic only when you crush it. If you crush it, you'll get blisters and it's not harmful. But while on the species on my right is Philonthus. Philonthus pideroides, that looks like Pederus. Pideroids, that looks like Pederus. So it's a harmless creature. Both the species are very common in houses in Kashmir, but we do not know how to differentiate between the two. We might be accidentally or maybe knowingly crushing some beetle and getting the blisters. That is where taxonomy comes. We have to learn their taxonomy. We have to learn their identification. That is what citizen science does. We have to learn, we have to get involved into the citizen science. So now moving on to the classification part. The insects, being the most diverse, have been grouped together, have been grouped into different groups, and the groups are called as orders. And the orders are mainly named after the modification of their wings. If they are modified, if they are not, number of wings and the ornamentation of wings. So you must keep in mind, pteron in Greek means wings. I'll be repeating it many times in this presentation, the word pteron. So keep that in mind. And there are, on the basis of orientation as well, the classification is based. Now, before going on to the classification, we must know what insects mean by definition. Insects have particular characteristic features. One is they have a distinct head, thorax, and abdomen, three-segmented body, head, thorax, and abdomen. And the second one is they have 6 legs, that is 3 pairs, not more than that, not less than that. And they have antennae as well, and a pair of wings if present. They can, in some cases, they can be altogether absent. So let's see our understanding with these particular features. The first one, is the first one an insect? Not at all, because the body is not differentiated into 3 segments. There are only 2 segments, as you can clearly see. And it has 8 legs, which is a characteristic feature of spiders, not insects. So spider is not an insect. And this one, the B part, is it has 6 legs. The body is divisible. Body is divisible into head, separate thorax, and separate abdomen. And they have antennae as well. So this qualifies for the definition of an insect. Here, if you see, there are only 2 segments in the body. So this definitely is not an insect. And they have 8 legs. So not an insect. And in this case, there is no question arises of it being an insect, since it has more than 6 legs. So we do not go on further checking for other characters. This is what insect means. Now we have the first order called as Lepidoptera. As I already said, ptera means wings and lepido means scaly. Like in this case, if you can see it, they have, if you zoom into butterflies and moths, you'll see their body as well as wings are completely laden with these scales. When you touch them, you feel that powdery substance on your fingers. That's actually the worn out scales. And there is one more character, that is their antennae are either clubbed, that is narrow at the base and bulging towards the periphery. Or they have clubbed or comb-shaped antennae, as you can see in this particular case. So this was Lepidoptera, that is moths and butterflies. Our next order is wasps, ants, and bees. They have been grouped together into a single order called as Hymenoptera. As we know, hymen means membrane and ptera means wings. So Hymenoptera actually means membranous wings. There is no modification of wings. There is no ornamentation on wings. The wings are devoid of scales and other structures. You can see here clearly that they have these clear wings, 4 in number. That is 4 wings and hind wings. And the antennae are long and drooping, multiple segmented, long and drooping, usually elbowed, like that of our elbow. That is called a geniculate antennae. And they have this constriction, which is characteristic to bees, wasps, and ants. This is called as PTO. You can differentiate between different kinds of ants, wasps on the basis of this very character, which is the PTO. Okay, here you can see the PTO. Here is the petiole of an ant and petiole of a wasp. Now moving on to the next order, which is my favorite, the flies. Diptera. We know di means 2 and pteron means wings. You can actually look at these insects as the modifications of Hymenoptera. This is not the real case, but for the sake of convenience, you can take it as the generalized Hymenoptera, you can take as generalized, and further all the orders you can take as the modifications. Like in this case, you can find only 2 wings, and the rest of 2 wings are modified into these halteres that make their flight so much stable. If you see insects in if you see flies in flight and other insects, flight of the flies is comparatively very stable than the rest of insects due to these structures that you'll find vibrating all the time to keep them in balance. In addition to that, they have short antennae, just 3 or 4 segmented, and the legs or the claws have pads under it. Sometimes these flies too are lacking the wings. Then we take this haltery, short antennae, and this padded feet into consideration. Here is one more, the most diverse of the insect orders that has around more than 1.5 million species in only that particular order. There are so many species. You can get an idea that I collected around 100 plus species from around my home only. That too from some selected families only. This Coleoptera, it's not actually, I don't think it's the most diverse. Maybe some other order is the most diverse. Since they are easy to collect and easy to photograph, most of the collectors get them in major quantity. That's why they say that Coleoptera is diverse. Maybe someday we say that maybe Diptera is the most diverse or some other order is diverse. We have not worked out these orders actually. We have to do them. So the characteristic feature in the case of these beetles is the forewing is modified. That is, the front wings are modified into protective sheath-like structure. Coleo means protective and pteron means wings. Coleo means sheath, like you can see in this case, sheath-like wings hardened, that is called as elytra, that completely protects the viscera as well as the hind wings. And most important characteristic feature in case of beetles is that these two wings, these two modified wings, meet at the midline of their dorsal side, that is the back end. This would be clear from this particular picture. You can see here the forewings are modified into hardened elytra and the hind wings are as such. There are pros and cons to this kind of modification. Although they can protect themselves from the mechanical damage and all that, but there are some consequences as well, like they cannot take long flights. They hardly fly some meters from their place. That is some pros and cons to it. So now one more of the orders is true bugs. Not all insects are bugs. We quite often say that I have collected a bug, which is not the case actually. Bugs are only the Hymenopterans, not the other orders. So what are the characteristic features of these bugs is they have, we call them actually Hymenoptera. Hemi means half and pteron means wings. They have only half the wing is modified, while as half of it is as such. You can see in this case, you can see here the antennae, the wings are modified only to the midway. That is, half of the wing is modified, while as half of it is unmodified. And the wings are not joining at the midline. So sometimes it's really difficult to differentiate between a bug and a beetle. But in this case, when you know the characteristic features, we can easily differentiate between the two, that the midline is not present in case of bugs, and they have thread-like antennae. Here is our today's last order, that is dragonflies and damselflies. They have been categorized into a single order called as Odonata. Why Odonata? Because they, whenever you go into the field, you'll find them often munching on their prey. That is what gave them the name teeth-like. Odonto means teeth-like. So they keep on munching all the time. That's what got them the name Odonata. They have characteristic features like the abdomen is elongated and the thorax is chunky. That is bulky thorax that contains wings that do not fold one on the another, that are usually kept perpendicular to their body or parallel to one another. And in addition to that, the eyes are large compound eyes. What compound eye here means, I'd like to explain a bit here. Compound eye means the eye that is made of small facets. It's not a single eye. These are thousands of eyes merged together to create a single image. That's why they have that mosaic-like vision you see in the Hollywood and Bollywood movies. And they have small antennae, small like bristle-like antennae. And now you will be able to differentiate between a Diptera and Hymenoptera. Now, which of these is a bee? This one or this one? One on the top has only 2 wings, while one on the bottom has 4 wings. 4 wings is characteristic feature of Hymenoptera, that is bees. And this particular species has only 2 wings, and there is presence of haltery, which is characteristic to Diptera. So it's a fly, not a bee. It is just mimicking the bees just to evade the predators and just to make itself look like a bee so that it could feed on some aphids and other creatures. And in addition to that, you can see long antennae in case of bees and short in case of flies. And the mouth parts are different as well. So now, which of these is a wasp? Now, we already know that wasps have drooping antennae, they have membranous wings, there are no structures on it, and they have 4 wings. You can see in this particular case, the antennae are not at all bent or elbowed, and the body is covered in scales in this case. So it makes it a Lepidoptera, that is scaly winged creature. This one is a moth and this one a wasp. You can see here, in addition to these features, you can see mouth is well differentiated, mouth is not differentiated at all in this case. So it's a moth mimicking the wasp just to evade the enemies. That is how nature works. So which of these is an ant? These all 3 are look like ants. When you see them in the field, you will feel like these are ants only. This particular species on my right, which is on my extreme right, is actually a spider mimicking the ants. It has, you can see here, it has only 2 segmented body. That is, head and thorax are fused and abdomen is separate, and it has 8 legs instead of 6. It mimics the ants to an extent that it creates a false smell like that of ants and enters the ant colonies and crushes them and feeds on them. You can see in the next case, you can see the antennae are not bent or are not elbow shaped. You can see here, and there is presence of elytra, which is characteristic to Coleoptera, and they are meeting in the midline. While in this case, you can see presence of petiole and body 3 segmented, antennae geniculate, or we call it elbowed. So it is a typical ant, while these 2 are just mimicking and trying to look like an ant. So here is the order that we are not covering, and there are many orders which we are not covering in this particular session because it would take almost a month to complete all the orders. Here is one order called as Tricoptera. This is not Lepidoptera. Trico means hair, ptera means wings. They have hairy wings, not the typical Lepidoptera like. Or they do not have scales on their wings, and you can see antennae are different as well. So we'll be taking I'll be taking a small short break here just for the questions, and we'll be continuing with the ecology of insects in the later part. If there are any questions, please.
I have a question. So, Sandeep, do you want to moderate this?
Yeah, I can do.
Okay, should I put the question in the chat box or can I ask directly?
You can put it in the chat box. I will convey. I request everyone, if they have any query, they can put it in the chat box.
Can you see my question?
No. Yeah. There is a question from Sachin that he is asking that the first image was of the beetle with fungi. Was that a zombie fungus?
Which one? The beetle? No, I have
So
not
the
added
first-
any. No, I have not added any fungus here. Although I have
The-
pictures of those zombie fungi, but I have not added them here.
The first image where there was that brown colored beetle with a lot of those how to mention the very first image which had that where there were maggots and all the things in that image. The very
No, I
first
have not
image
added
which
any
you had shared.
image showing any kind of ghost fungus or what we call as Cordyceps family. I do
Okay.
not. I have not added that.
I think he's asking about your screenshot picture.
No. Not the screenshot. It was like that. Do you remember that the first image which had a big beetle? Then there were a lot of those gall kind of things on the top, which appeared like small flowers, round shaped, white colored thing. First or second picture, maybe.
Yes, the black little globules, I think, around something that looked like a cockroach. Is that what you're telling?
Yes. So that.
So if you can go back to
Yeah, I'll try
Maybe
to.
if you just minimize this, like maybe just close the slideshow and with the slides which are there in your presentation. From that, I can say whether the first page or the second page.
Just a sec. I can't do it. Not
Okay.
able to do it. It's stuck. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Just a sec. Which
Yeah,
one in
so,
particular?
Just go up.
This one.
The third one. Yeah, the third one.
Yeah.
That the whole structure at the base and all these the black things, black balls. What are these? Are they something related to the like the zombie fungus, or it is a fungi, I believe?
No. These were actually classified under the kingdom fungi, but nowadays these are not classified under that particular kingdom.
Mhm.
Now they have been placed in single-celled organisms called as protists. These are actually
Okay.
slime molds that are fungus-like protists. They creep
Okay.
on the forest floor. They have large single cells with so many nuclei. Once they find the substrate, they try to create these fruiting bodies to dehisce their propagules. These are myxomycetes, yeah, not fungi.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Kannan, if you have permission, I'm unable to put anything in the chat box. Can I ask the question?
yeah, you can.
Okay. So, Saib, you have shown a picture of 3 insects which look like ants, and you said one of them was mimicking an ant and a spider. So you, the other one, there was another one also you said was mimicking an ant. So why are there so many of them mimicking to be an ant? What is the advantage they get out of mimicking an ant?
Yeah, first of all, ants have mechanisms to protect themselves. They are nobody would dare to do anything with the ant because everyone knows that they contain formic acid as a means of protection, and they'll use it at any cost when they feel any kind of there is any kind of damage to their nest or anywhere. So they try to mimic them just to evade the predators. No, most of the predators just leave ants because they do not even think about them, because they are so much vigorous, and they can actually bring down any kind of insect down. They have that formic acid, strong formic acid, and they can paralyze actually any small insect.
Well, but that chemical, but the morphologically they're similar.
Yeah.
So why are they mimicking in terms of the shape, and not just the chemical difference?
Just to look like them.
So
They just want to look like them. They have nothing to do with but some of these, as I said, the spiders actually do the physiological mimicking as well. Sometimes they spread the pheromones, or they secrete those pheromones like that of the ants, and can completely fool these ants and any kind of ant actually, and feed on these particular creatures. Yeah, I think that's the answer.
thank you.
So the next question is from Arush. He's asking which kingdom does the spider belongs to?
Spider belongs to the same kingdom the insect does. So it is Arthropoda. Arthropoda contains all these orders and all these classes. That is class Arachnida, and this one is class Insecta. So Arachnida is separate and Insecta is separate. These are two separate classes of the phylum Arthropoda and the kingdom Animalia. We all belong to kingdom Animalia, and then there are phyla, like Arthropoda is one of the phyla, phylum Arthropoda. Then we go into further classification, that is classes. They have class Insecta, class Arachnida. Then further into in classes there are further orders, like we studied in this particular case.
Is there any other questions we can ping in chat?
Shall we continue with the remaining part now?
Yeah, you can. There is no questions.
Okay. So let's now look at the checks the nature has created for most of the insects that are pests or other insects as well. Since they are mega diverse, and there can be a population explosion of these insects, or there can be literally an apocalypse of these insects. So there, the nature has kept checks, positive checks, just to check their population if it is in control. We have Hymenopteran checks, I call them. This is not a scientific term. Hymenopteran checks, Dipteran checks, and not Lepidopteran, but Coleopteran checks. Now let's look at the Hymenopterans that are common in this part of the world, that is Kashmir and some part of India. We have a bit different fauna unlike the rest of India. So I am covering here mostly the part that is found in Kashmir. So here are some of the Hymenopterans. This one is a Dipteran, a really big menace for the melon industry, the watermelon industry, the cucumbers, and all those agricultural products. They are a biggest menace. The maggots you see inside the cucumbers or watermelons are actually the larvae of this particular fly. You can see here too, it is trying to oviposit, that is trying to lay eggs inside, deep inside the this particular species. I photographed ovipositing on the squashes, cucumbers as well. But nature has kept its check. You can see here. This particular species of wasps called as braconid wasp. They lay eggs into the eggs of these melon flies and paralyze them and kill them, so that their larvae feed on the larvae or eggs of that particular pest. So they keep them in control. You can see the next one here, the fungus gnat. These fungus gnats, you can ask any mushroom enthusiast how big menace these fungus gnats are. They are the, I would say, they destroy the this fungus industry completely. Once I collected this fungus gnat cocoons, actually, I was expecting fungus gnats to come out, but what came out was really surprising. It was a wasp. This particular wasp called as Orthocentrous. And this is an undescribed species. That is, it is a new species. Positive checks. What these Orthocentrous species do, they lay eggs into the larvae of this fungus gnat, further feed on the larvae of this particular host. That is how they keep them in control. We have many more, but I have only showed few of them. Here is I collected once the bug eggs, the stink bug eggs, and I was expecting stink bug nymphs to come out, but what came out was these Tricoptera species. That is a small wasp that lays eggs into the eggs of these stink bugs and keep their population in control. You can see here again, this is a beautiful fly. Although it's beautiful, it is one of the major pests we have. This usually lays eggs inside the etc., and they damage the crop of that sunflower. Called as Eurytomid wasps. I photographed this Eurytomid wasp laying eggs on the larvae of that particular fly. That is how this parastoidism, we call it parastoidism, where the parastoid always kills its host. They keep them in check. Here are some beautiful wasps from Kashmir. You can see the long ovipositor. It's called as ovipositor, long tail-like structure called as ovipositor. These wasps use this long ovipositor to penetrate deep into the substrates to find their host and paralyze it, and then lay eggs on them so that their larvae feed on the larvae of other insects. That is how fascinating the world of insects is. You can see here again, it's called as Ecdamua lehensis, which is endemic to our Western Himalayas. Here is one more called as Keropakus. Again, the farmer's friend. They keep in check the borers, the wood borers, apple orchards. I have photographed this from our apple orchards only. Here again, you will see this particular species does not actually stop any kind of pest. This actually lays eggs on bees, since bee population also needs to be controlled. So there are positive checks. This one in particular is called as Gastruption. As you can see, it has penetrated its injection-like structure into that very substrate. You can see here. So it is just laying eggs on the host to kill them and to feed on them. Here is one more, the Bristol Mares. This too lays eggs on the wood borers that are biggest menace to the apple industry. So here is how they find their hosts. This particular species usually lays eggs during the night. So it's a nocturnal species, an undescribed and new species of Halconini subfamily of Braconidae. So what they do is they keep on beating their antennae like that of drumsticks. Once they find the host underneath, they set their target with the help of these antennae. Since it has two bands, you can see here, you can see the white bands here. They use it to set the target even in the dark. They can see these white. They use it as a target setter and inject their venom directly into the host without getting it. So now Diptera. We have so many Dipterans here, and they too act as the, I would say, they control the population of other insects. In this case, this particular species, MC or tachinid fly. We have in Kashmir, them due to the western Himalayas and the eastern part as well. This checks the population of the pest Lepidopterans, the pest moths. They lay eggs into the larvae of those moths and kill them and check their population. This particular this one is one of my favorite. This is the prime of the as the of a robber. That's why they are called as robber flies. They catch any insect in the plain air. This particular species is an undescribed, that is new species of Machimus. This too is a fly and feeding on other flies, beetles, and here is Dipterans as food. Nowadays, people are switching to different modes of agricultural practices, and BSF, black soldier fly cultivation, is gaining popularity these days. This species of flies lays lot of trash. Whatever domestic waste comes out of your kitchen and anywhere, you can put it outside and put in the eggs of these black soldier flies. As you can see in this case, it's ovipositing. What the larvae emerge from these eggs and feed on the litter and convert it completely into their body matter, that is protein. So there is 100%, if not 100, at least 90% of protein conversion, that is trash to protein conversion. So they convert them into proteins, and we can use these proteins further in like fish industry, like poultry, like animal farms, etc. We can do it. So this is gaining popularity these days. Here is one of the most one of our very endemic species, the Himalayan checkered beetle. That is dragging a pest, an undescribed pest from the apple tree. You can see it, it's dragging out the pest from its bore or the hole. It kills them and safeguards our apple industry. That is all for today. And in last, I would like to explain a bit about my setup and how do I photograph. This particular photograph was taken using my homemade setup that you can see in my background. I have actually made it from a student's microscope. There are two things that one must learn, that is stacking and stitching. Stacking is a practice where we take pictures at different focal planes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that, so many pictures, and then stack them together in a software to create a full all in focus image, so that we can see all the characteristic features in a single image. That is what stacking is all about. And I must say here that photography is all about light. Since it is photo means light, photography is all about light. That is all we have for today. Thank you. So if we have any questions.
If anybody has any query, please write in the chat.
Since my chat is not working, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, since I've asked a very subject question earlier, I have some other interesting observation. Are you a fan of Jackie Chan? Because every time I see you, you seem to be having some part of your hands with a bandage.
It often happens with me since I spend most of the time in field, and these type of things are common.
Okay.
Hello, can I ask a question? I don't want to type. Is that okay?
Yeah, you can.
So I like the the concept of your black soldier fly. That's what you said, right? Black soldier fly.
Yeah.
Yes, because I've been composting for last 18 years, so, and I do it in my house wherever we would post it and all. So, and people don't want to compost just because of the biotic factors which comes into it. So I like the way that, you've turned that around and made it positive, because without the biotic factors, you can't get your compost. So how convincing can you be? Can you, besides these, can you talk about any other insects which normally you find who can help in composting? And, I've been also an educator, and one thing I've always revolted, and a biology teacher. So I've always just tested teaching and always turned it around, is when you teach the children about useful and harmful animals, where there's nothing nowadays harmful. The only thing is harmful, you're talking in context of human beings, not in contest to ecology. So these are the two things, how you can turn this around and how you can make it positive. How can you convince people that biotic factor is okay? And what about the whole thing, the idea of teaching the wrong concept to the children? What is your take on that? Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. We must see it from the ecology point of view. Since not everything can be beneficial to us, we have to look for solutions from the environment. We can use them, like you asked a question, that is there any other kind of insect? Yeah, there are so many insects, but the conversion rate is not as fast as the black soldier fly. Since I have cultured these black soldier flies in my room only, I can tell you that they grow so quickly and get converted into the proteins. So there are some Coleopterans, the beetles, we call them the meal larvae. You must check it. The meal larvae, these are from the family Tenebrionidae, or from the families there are many more families that convert the trash or the animal droppings, or the whatever comes out of the kitchen, they convert that directly into the protein. So yeah, we must see them, and we should see them. Actually, we must engage ourselves, engage our all the senses in learning about and understanding the world around us. That is what should be our main aim, rather than thinking of ourselves only. That would be kind of, if we do that, that would be kind of selfish in that kind of, I would say, in that manner. So we must take them as from the ecological point of view.
Thank you. Tell me, what is the
Hello, Neeta. Is your question clear?
Oh, sorry, I didn't unmute. Did you hear my question?
No.
Oh, sorry, I didn't unmute myself. So what I'm trying to say is, since I've been composting, I do have these black, larvae, which look quite like the maggots, but they're a little smaller version. And are they the larvae of the black soldier fly? Because
No,
they creep into my house at times, and I do have these flies, trying to get out. So
yeah, I would like to say, yeah, most of the times the larvae you find inside the trash, or like they are usually from the families like fungus gnats are there, some other species are there, but these particular black soldier fly larvae grow to the size of this much, like a centimeter or 2 centimeter large. They are usually brown in color. um, I would have shown you the picture, but I will have to dig it out from the large collection. So it's not possible this time. Maybe sometime I can share it with you. Yeah, you can check it from my profile on Facebook profile. You can check it, Black Soldier.
I'll go do that. Thank you.
So the next question is from Anand Sharma. He's asking uh, he's asking about spiders. He said firstly, if I want to tell a layman about their significance, what should I tell them? What the major significance for a layman and for a biologist as well?
Yeah, in case of they are asking about the spiders.
Yeah.
Spiders in particular, or insects sensu lato, in a large sense.
Anand, you can unmute and ask.
Yes, can you repeat? Sorry.
Yeah. In spiders in particular, or general arthropods?
No, for spiders, firstly, I was asking about.
Yeah, spiders keep in check the fly population and other insects. You can keep spiders inside your room as well, and they can check the mosquito population. That is how their significance is much larger, and we have some spider experts here as well. They can explain it in a better way. I think yeah, there are so many things that spiders do, like they check the population of some pests as well. If you have spiders in your field, that is a good thing, and they can check the population of these pests.
Oh,
Or no,
okay, I
this
got
better.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, are we done with the questions? Kannan, do you see anyone else?
Yeah, I can see
Let's take a couple of.
somebody's asking how many hours a day do you spend observing insects?
I spend most of my time, even if I am inside my room, that too is the observation time. And I spend observing them inside my room as well. So I don't know how much it counts, how much time it does make, but it's around maybe 2 hours at least each and every day. Even if I'm traveling, I keep my vials, my camera with me. Uh, you never know what comes your way, so you have to keep these things.
One more question is it's wonderful to know more about this kingdom. Would want to know more about how these sessions are structured and the end outcome.
Is it for me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it related to sessions? I couldn't hear you properly.
Yeah, it's about the sessions, like how the
Sessions, yeah.
sessions are structured and end outcome.
Look, there are, I would say, not actually in India, but other countries have their separate, I would say, committees and organizations for doing such things. But we unfortunately do not have such systems. So we have to do it randomly. And the outcome is that people are getting inspired and inspired towards this beautiful field and completely unexplored field that we need to explore. We have to work on it. That is what we want the citizens to do, to develop the citizen science.
Thank you so much. One last question, Kannan? Can we take one last question, and then I'm requesting Divya to give a vote of thanks.
There is no more questions.
Okay, since Divya is in, okay, Divya, I can see you have unmuted yourself. Can you please, if you don't mind, give a vote of thanks?
Sorry, Padma, I missed your voice.
I said, can you, we have wrapped up the session on time, and it's been a very interesting session. Can you please give vote of thanks and close the today's webinar?
Yeah, matlab, thank you for the session, Padma, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was just listening to the entire conversation, and it's been very, very interesting. Especially, I think the pictures and all really talks a lot about what we were talking to. So thanks a ton to Shoaib. And thank you, Padma, for organizing the same, Madhu, for being there. So thanks a ton.
Thanks. Thanks, Divya. Madhu, you want to add anything? And Kannan?
I would like to add that thank you, Divya, and thank you so good for letting us use the Zoom for which we were able to do this. And thank you, Shoaib, for introducing us into this wonderful world of insects. It was extremely interesting, and I hope we get to hear and see more of it. And thank you, Padma. Thank you, Padma, for organizing this.
Kannan, you want to say anything?
Kannan, please unmute.
Yeah, I would like to thank everyone for joining the session. Mostly like Suhaib and Padma for organizing the session. It was quite wonderful. Hoping many more sessions we will have in future. Before ending the session, like we can have a group photo. I would like everyone to switch on their camera so that we can have a quick photograph.
So if you were raising your hand, you want to say something?
No, it's done now.
Everybody, can you switch on your video, because Kannan wants to take a picture. So if you all can quickly come on the video. Hi. Kannan, who else is there? Anand Sharma and yours, Aarti Saxena,
Irfan, Divya,
Fozia, Fayaz,
Anush,
Ifran, Ikra, Gaurav, Fozia, Shubhadra, Tabassum. We have Anush, Anand Sharma, and yeah. So I guess whoever wants to be with the videos on, another 10 seconds and then you can, yeah. Ashraf, Fozia Riaz, Anand Sharma, and Jos, Aarti Saxena. I guess whoever is comfortable coming on the video has. That's it. Huh?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks everybody for joining, and hoping that you will come back to more interesting talks with, we're organizing one more with Suhaib.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Suhaib.
Thank you, Padmaji. Thank you, Shoaib, for the wonderful session.
Hey, Sachin, good to see you.
Same here. And we'll be ready for some more sessions.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.